tons of cool warbirds out there. But I gotta tell you, the P-40 has always been one of those that it doesn't get represented enough. And this one from Durafly, 1.1 meter, is a fantastic flyer, and it's got gobs of power. Stick around, let me get into it. Welcome to the shop. Today I've got the Hobby King Durafly P-40, 1.1 meter wingspan, 4S power. I think it'll fly on a 3S, but why would you do that? Just go 4S. And it needs 4S because it needs a little weight up front. That's a whole nother thing I'll get into. This is a feature-rich plane with fantastic retracts, got a bomb drop, split flaps, and it flies really darn good. In this video, I'm going to go over what I always do. I'm going to talk about the pieces, the parts, the assembly, go through details or some hiccups that you might see while you're assembling and how to solve that problem. I'm going to go into the setup, and then we're going to do a performance flight just to show you the power and what this thing will do, which is fantastic. Then I want to talk about landings, because landings are always, for all these planes, how does this plane land? This plane is a challenge to land, I'll just tell you that, especially on hard surface. If I had a grass runway, I think I'd be a lot happier with the way it lands. But I'm going to go into those details and show you the good and the bad. Then after that, we're going to summarize. If you're interested in this stuff, there's a lot of links in the description below. I've got all the tools I'm using, from the drills and power screwdrivers and cool stuff like that from Fantech, along with a whole lot of things, as far as glues, adhesives, and so on and so forth. If you have any questions, leave a comment. If you like these kind of videos, hit that like button. Appreciate it. Stick around. Durafly P-40 V2. A lot of folks have had this out already, talking about it. And I got mine just the other day. Want to get into the details. Digging into all the stuff. We've got prop, spinner. Had P-40s in the past, other manufacturers, and they are solid flying planes. Very well done. Here, let's see. Got a split flap. Got close all the way there, but that's okay. Foam hinges. Decals look good. Actually a pretty good looking retract. Not a lot of plastic there, it's all metal. So rotating retracts. All right, we have a bomb. Comes with a quick setup guide, and there's also a lot more information on the website. But for the most part, if you've built a couple of these planes, and this type of plane, I don't think it should be your first plane. So you can understand the throws, center of gravity, batteries, so on and so forth. So setup stuff pretty handy. Horizontal stabilizer, use a carbon fiber too, interlocking. This is the Aleutians color scheme. A little different, kind of a weird looking tiger, but okay. And let's see, we've got, pops up there. Pretty narrow right there, but let's see what 4S battery looks like. XD60. Let's not draw a lot of amps. That's a pretty narrow, pretty small wire, small gauge wire, which is fine. Okay, all that goes through there. That all looks good. Here's your elevator and rudder controls. Got a steerable tail wheel, ball links, which is nice. Quick connect to adjust the tail wheel. Looks pretty straightforward assembly. Doesn't look like it's too much at all. Should be pretty simple. All right, let me put all this stuff out on the table and start assembling. This is nice when you get separate bags and it tells you what those bags are for. Sure makes assembly handy. Everything for the elevator assembly right here. So these clips slide in and line up perfectly. You'll have a short one and a long one. And you have one on each of the horizontal stabilizers. Push everything together. Push those plastic tabs into that hole there. And then I can see right there, there's another little screw, which is that guy. And that's good. In. Got some ball links we got to set up, but we'll do that after we get the servos centered. Shove all of these wires, basically all these wires got to go through those holes. All right, move this out of the way. Moved all those wires that were right there back here and just have them taped down. Before you put the wings on, it's going to be a lot easier to put these supplied Y connectors on the ailerons and the flaps. All right, so the instructions say that this should sit flush, but it doesn't. And when I pull it off, we'll have a telltale signs of, don't know if you can see it, but that's getting crushed by this whole thing. Well, need to make a little clearance. So take out my cool little micro saw. These are really great if you can get them. Slice off just a hair. I mean, 1/8 of an inch. And let's see how it fits now. All right, that little bit of carving did good. That now, I feel good about the space between there. I'm gonna get that screwed down. Long screws for the front and short screws for the back. This radiator cowl is a little tricky. You know, the documentation says screw it in. Well, that's not going to work so well. I kind of do screw it in, but I use these little tabs that came with the kit and just glue those onto the wing. I use my fancy drill and drill a small hole from that piece of plastic that I just showed you into the cowl, and then these small self-tapping screws to attach it all. As you can see here, as I already had the one on the left side, now we have screws on both sides. That's how I fixed it. The propeller comes with the 3 blades that basically press into the spinner backplate, and then you have some self-tapping screws that hold that all together. I will say that I had to balance my prop a lot. It was vibrating the heck out of it, and it required a bit of tweaking to get it so it doesn't vibrate as much. As you can see, the assembly on it's pretty simple, straightforward, like a lot of these kind of 3-blade props. So the receiver is bound to the transmitter, and I'm going through the process of making sure all the control surfaces are going to work properly, as well as installing all the control rods. Need to install the control rods. It's nice when you get a bag that's just for flaps, has everything in it. I like that. Pretty handy. Did that with rudder and with aileron, because a lot of times, you know, you're trying to figure out which is which as far as size-wise for control rods. So pretty handy. Glad they do that. So on one end there's a Z-bend, the other is a ball link. You screw it to the appropriate size. Then you'll slide in the screw and put a nut on it, and you're done. Since the receiver is up and running, double check to make sure things are working properly. Here you can see the flaps are not in sync. Those had to be fixed and tweaked a little. But then, as far as checking all the control surfaces, flaps are working good, landing gear is working properly, Everything is working in the right direction, and it's a matter of setting up your throws, which, the documentation shows you where you should be. I'm going with a low, medium, high rates based on the documentation for my maiden. As I mentioned in the flight, I pushed the CG quite a bit forward, well, at 50 millimeters with a 2200 shoved all the way up, and a quarter ounce of lead in the cowl seemed to work pretty good. All right, we're going to take up this plane. We've got a 4S 2200 shoved all the way front. Got a Lemon RX 7-channel receiver. No gyro in this. About 8-mile-an-hour winds. On that takeoff, you saw it kind of torque over. This thing has a ton of power. The prop does need some balancing. I balanced it. I kind of scraped it up on a couple landings prior to this flight, and I need to rebalance it because it is just vibrating like crazy, as you'll see here soon. A lot of vibration in that prop. This P-40 from Durafly has all the performance of a Warbird. So see this 1.1 size with a 4S. As I said before, there is a ton of power, unlimited power. It is just crazy. And it carved very nice. Now, 8-mile-an-hour winds, little turbulence, no gyro. I can do big loops, I can fly inverted, I can do whatever I want with this plane. That said, as you'll see, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, on the ground, boy, that's where the skill comes in. You really have to have some skill to handle this thing on the ground. I'll go into more detail later, but here's some flying around. This is the second day of flying when I rebalanced the prop, so you'll notice there's a significantly different sound. We're going to go back and do some landings, and I'm going to kind of highlight some of the landings, but you'll see this is a moderate speed and doing the basic aerobatics. The power system, as I've said, is impressive, and these flights on a 2200 can go a long time. On this flight, I'm flying with a slightly heavier battery, around 250 grams, and I have a quarter of an ounce of lead glued into the chin of the cowl. And I did that just to do a test, but I found that it definitely helped the performance and flyability of the plane. The plane tracks better even at these fast, high-speed passes. Okay, let's get into landings, because that's where things get a little exciting, interesting, whatever. It's different. So for landing this plane, there's a couple things you need to know. One, the landing gear is very narrow, kind of like a Spitfire, which lends itself to ground loops and scraping up the wings. Everything has to be perfect. And about 10%, maybe 5% of my landings were perfect. Dropping throttle, making my turn, dropping throttle a little bit more. Try to get a nice, easy descent, but man. Touch and goes aren't too bad. It's coming to a complete stop, which is the challenge. This landing is an example where everything works out pretty well. Again, full flap in this case. I'm trying to slow it down. CG pretty far forward. No gyro. Touching down super gently and just letting it continue to roll. Now feeding in that elevator to plant that wheel and get on that rudder. For some reason, my depth perception doesn't work so well with small planes, and sometimes I think they're higher or lower than they really are. This is an example of me kind of messing that one up. Another example of a good touch and go. Gently touch down, keep the throttle on, monitor that rudder, and power up and get back up. This plane was just driving me nuts on trying to get a perfect landing. I mean, I struggled. I did dozens and dozens of landings. Couldn't get it mastered. Jeez. In the end, chalked it up to, you know what, it's not going to be perfect landing. It's just not. I wish I had a grass runway. I think it'd be a little bit more stable. Let's go back and talk a little bit about the pros and cons of this plane. Welcome back to the shop. Let's talk about a couple things. Let's talk about the parts and assembly. As you saw in the video, the parts are solid. The detail's good. All the decals look pretty darn good. Paint color, I liked it. The Aleutian Tiger was a little different, but okay, let's go with it. But in the air, I tell you, it's a good looking little warbird. Assembly was pretty simple. The exhaust cowl down here took a little finagling, not a big deal. Getting the wings to solidly mount, I had to remove some material. That was pretty much it. Everything else went together as advertised in the documentation, and it wasn't a problem. Great details, good fit for the most part, solid. Performance is the real thing. And the plane flies really, really well. On the ground, there's a challenge, as you saw, but once you get it in the air, it'll fly slow, do great aerobatics, and unlimited power. I mean, it is crazy. I didn't have a gyro. Flew it in 8-mile-an-hour winds, crosswinds, and so on and so forth, and it flew. It flew really well, tracked really well. I moved that CG quite a bit forward, about 50 millimeters. I got a little chunk of lead, just a 1/4 ounce of lead. I know people are going to say I never put lead in a plane. Well, I don't have batteries that I could shove that far and forward that would give me the weight. So I did what I had to do. But it requires a more forward CG to get it to fly as well as I thought it flew. Landings are the tricky part. That's a narrow landing gear. And it was susceptible to rolling over on a wing, flipping up on its nose, ground loops, the whole thing. I got some good touch and goes, and that's not a problem. It's when you're getting that tail down, things start to get a little unstable. Landing in short grass, manicured grass, would be fantastic. If you fly from that, boy, you're going to have a lot of fun with this plane. This is not a beginner plane. Do not think that this is going to be your first plane. Don't do it. It's got tons of power. It's challenging on the ground from a tail dragger perspective. Make this maybe your third plane. Just saying. That's my recommendation. Hey, if you like this plane, there's a link in the description below. If you have any questions about the plane, the setup, what tools I'm using, so on and so forth, definitely leave a comment. If you like these videos, hit that like button. Have a great day. Take care.